Now, earlier when we were talking about how to talk about benefits and future benefit, we said start with you. Well, there's a myth. You don't always have to use you, literally, with the prospect to get their attention. It's the easy one, and it's probably a good one to start with when you're first writing copy and you want to see how it's working, because it is very popular. It does work. It is the rule, but rules are made to be broken. So many successful promotions have been written in the first person, which is we or I, and the third person, which is he, she, or they. And Mark Morganford really encourages you to explore all the different ones. So let's walk through each one. Why is you the default? Well, it talks directly to the reader, so it's a kind of a no-brainer. It make your money go further. That's an easy one to do. And it says what you get free gas when you do something. And it's an easy approach. Imagine you're walking through the forest, whatever. It's easy to start that way because you know you're going to be talking conversationally to one person. How to get free gas every time you fill up. It's an easy one. I don't want to talk you out of using you because it is incredibly powerful and it works a lot of times. But try some other different ones because we want to show you different ways you can test copy and see if something works better. You doesn't always guarantee success. That's the bottom line. If you just throw you in there, it's not going to be a winner every time. You just need to try whatever it is that's going to break through the clutter. So you might be the right answer, but also I, we, he, she, they, those also could be very powerful. Let's see what I mean. So here's a second person voice using I or we, and it's very powerful for customer testimonials and endorsements, like celebrity endorsements. So here we have an example from tutor.com, a testimonial from a teen saying, I went from B- to A+. That's an example of I. We also have people who might write the product creator promise. It pays for itself or we buy it back. So that's the we voice. And then we have an endorsement. Yes, I use Luster Cream shampoo. That was a Marilyn Monroe endorsement, just so you know. The third person, using they, he, she, is very powerful when telling stories sometimes. Like the Wall Street Journal letter started out with two young men graduated from the same college. So that's a they kind of thing. We have dramatic examples like this one here. Greedy dentists and doctors scream bloody murder because they're giving away free healthcare tips. So that's powerful there. And then we have another one that we showed you earlier, the lazy man's way to riches. That's very much a third person. They're not saying you or we. The lazy man is kind of a they or he. So you can see where some of these different approaches, first person, second person, third person, could be used in different ways to be very powerful for what you're writing. Now here's a modern example using they. We showed this before. Americans now are legally piggybacking Canadian Social Security and collecting extra monthly benefit checks from $400 to $4,700. Now that I have you thinking about trying different voices in first person through third person, let's look at intimacy. That's another principle that's good to know. The principle of intimacy is one where you're taking a charismatic approach, so your prospect is buying the person as much as the product. It's someone they believe in or someone they like. You actually want to buy the product because you like that person and you want to be like her. For example, if you see that Oprah has joined Weight Watchers and it's working for her, you need to try it. You feel you do. Because if you want to lose weight and you know that she's had her ups and downs and she's been very public about that, and this is something that's working for her, then darn, you got to try it too. Because you trust Oprah, you believe her, she is a believable spokesperson. So getting into Weight Watchers because you see something that she's promoting, you're buying the person as much as the product. A lot of professional people sell product because people are drawn to their story. And many times it's a struggle story. I was poor, I was divorced, I was struggling, and I overcame that in this way. So people who admire that person are definitely going to listen to things that help them. He or she, like Tim Ferriss here, the 4-hour work week, he was a living case study. He basically took this approach to automating certain things and decluttering and living a free lifestyle of travel. And then he documented that and showed you the tools he used. And he became a celebrity because of that. So now when he talks about something else he's doing that works, you believe him because he's built that reputation as I'm authentic and I've tried this and it did work. So if you can connect in a way where you're projecting or you're promoting someone who goes through the same thing that your hero or your prospect might be dealing with, that's going to be a nice approach to try. So you can see how when you develop a connection with the prospect, they're going to be much more likely to become a great lead or even make a purchase. So how do you forge a personal connection for your prospect? Or is there someone in your company who can be a spokesperson? You want to use an intimate voice. So I'm telling you my story. Here's why it worked for me. I started out struggling. You want to include a photo of the person. I'll walk you through this example in a second, but you want to walk in the prospect's shoes as you're telling this story. And then include revelations that the prospect will be like, yes, I remember that, or I've gone through that, or that's how we got over that. So let me walk through this here. This is from the desk of Dr. Brian, who's created a supplement to help with joints. He said the 2 most important people in my life were saved by this discovery. So he starts right out, very personal story. I know it can help you too. It's not too often that your life's mission ends up saving the lives of not 1, but 2 of the most important people in your life, but that's what happened to me. Then he tells a story about his dad, Ronnie, who was in a car accident, wheelchair bound. There he is, the picture, so authentic and true. Left him a paraplegic. After receiving my degree in biochemistry, I became very involved in the research of nitric oxide, the powerful gas molecule that's essential for the health of nearly every organ in your body. So here's the most important part that builds major authenticity. I devoted over 10 years of my career to design the technology for a delivery system to address this problem, and this led to the formulation of Neo 40 Daily. So it's a product that was developed by this doctor for his dad. That's a story that can resonate with any person who's a prospect for this product. There are several ways to forge a personal connection when you're writing a story about yourself or the person who is your voice, such as a celebrity or something, is telling their story. One of them is to show an Achilles heel. So what that might mean is you're showing a weakness you have that the prospect can relate to. In this case here, Mindy, who was an aspiring copywriter, she was struggling to really make a living as a copywriter, and so she starts out, here's my confession. I wasn't making good money. I was making, I was in debt, $100,000 in debt, and I had to get out of that. So she turned to copywriting. She tells the story of how she went through and discovered our program and how it made a big difference to her. But she starts with her weakness. She was $100,000 in debt. That's an Achilles heel that probably a lot of people can relate to. And that also includes her and the prospect in a special group. We're people who have to get out of debt. So by writing that of confession, I was in debt, you're suddenly vulnerable and making it more intimate for the reader so that they feel like, well, okay, so this person was in bad shape as I am, and now he's overcome it, so what can I do too? Differentiating your product or service from the enemy is another way to establish intimacy because it's us versus them. And if you understand that frustration they have with the government or the medical industry or whatever, then you're going to have them on your side because you get their pain. And then finally, love the customer. Just come up with ways to show them that you care, that you understand their pain, like my B2B engineers who went over to the vet practice and saw that people were struggling with their backs all day. That shows that you really get them, and that's a much more intimate approach.